up everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. And so today I've enlisted in the help of some of my friends who are out-of-state students to UC Berkeley, and they're going to be answering some questions and talking about their out-of-state student college experience. So definitely, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below because I'm also an out-of-state student from Maryland going to college in California. So let's get started.
Hi, my name is Ian Galbraith. I am a now graduated senior. I graduated in computer science and I'm from Portland, Oregon. I actually grew up in DC, but now I live in Portland.
Hi, my name is Swad. I am a rising junior at UC Berkeley. I'm majoring in bioengineering and EECS, and I'm originally from Ellicott City, Maryland. After graduating high school, my parents actually moved to Belgium, so I am both out of state and in some ways, I guess, international.
Hi, my name is Anna. I graduated in fall of 2019 and I studied cognitive science at Berkeley. I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I'm currently at right now.
Hi, my name's Alec. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and I just graduated from UC Berkeley, where I studied statistics, economics, and data science.
My name's Grant. I just graduated, so class of 2020. I studied economics and computer science, and I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
My name is Nico. I should have just graduated, but I'm taking one extra semester. I studied physics and CS, and I'm from DC, Washington, DC.
Why did you choose to leave your home state and go to college out of state?
I kind of wanted to go to a school outside of Oregon for one, and I felt like while I was in Oregon, my main two options were either Oregon State or University of Oregon, and neither of those seemed like great options for what I wanted to do.
I always wanted to go to college kind of farther away from home. I think by the time I had graduated high school, I was getting a little bored of kind of like suburban Maryland. And plus, I mean, California is a great place to be, and I had never been there before, and once I visited Berkeley, I kind of fell in love with it, and so I knew that I wanted to go there instead of staying at home.
I think the biggest catalyst for that is just my parents having the financial means to do so and to allow me to look at colleges at different price points without really having to consider finance. So I think that was something that I'll forever be grateful for. But beyond that, I think I had an interest in exploring different cultures and exploring kind of like what my worldview could, like how that could be different. I think a lot of people who grow up in small towns feel that, you know, they live in kind of a bubble and there's always going to be like a curiosity to explore a larger city or a different type of city. So I definitely had that. And the third thing for me was that I had previously been toying with the idea of going to a school that was the same track for all 4 years. And so that actually felt a little bit stifling to me as well because I wanted to see what was out there in terms of education as well. So, I mean, Berkeley is a really great school because in so many different majors, there's a lot of prestige and a lot of really awesome professors and stuff like that. So the idea that I could really freely pick any sort of major and any sort of career path felt, you know, very amazing to me.
I really chose Berkeley because of the program that it was joining. Berkeley was the best school that I got into specifically for the fields that I was interested in. And so I didn't let any factors about it being far away try to sway me away.
What has been the hardest thing for you going to college out of state?
The hardest, money.
Yeah,
Yeah, financially.
I wouldn't say it was like one of the hardest things, but it's definitely like one of the most salient differences was like this like subtle difference in culture. I think it's more like, at least compared to the East Coast, like people are a lot more like independent. There's also this aspect, like the whole idea of like a startup doesn't really exist as much on the East Coast. Like people I think are really willing to consider just going off and like starting their own thing and project.
Yeah.
I think like at least on the East Coast there's a higher affinity for people to just like gravitate towards joining an already established institution.
The transition really wasn't that bad. I think one of the biggest things that I miss was my mom's cooking. I really loved her food, and I couldn't really have that if I was living so far away. I think along with that, just generally having less assistance from my parents with a lot of things made me more independent. but I had always been like a pretty independent kid, and so that wasn't really a big difficulty for me.
And I would say for me, it was being away from my family. I think when you're 18, for me, it didn't really kick in until my sophomore year. I was really excited to buy like all the newness my first year. But I think as you get older, you realize that like, oh, holy crap, you're away from your family for like 8-9 months out of the year. If you have like a summer internship, even more. And for your parents too, it's really jarring because they're like empty nesters. And if you have any siblings, I think that's also really kind of a confusing topic, or a confusing like feeling to have your siblings suddenly like be gone for so much of the year.
The hardest thing for me was definitely showing up at Cal and not knowing anyone. I was very worried about this fact before I got there, and it was definitely worrying when I got there because of the fact that Berkeley is a state school and a lot of the people were themselves from California. I felt like everyone knew each other, but I didn't. And so that was definitely a very tough thing, and probably the hardest part about my experience at Cal, aside from all the difficult classes. But naturally, as time went on and as I grew more comfortable with the campus and the people around it, that kind of goes away.
Were you able to make new friends in college? How?
Most of my new friends in college came from either classes or my freshman year dorm floor, actually. Like, I met Rachel through class because I just think it's important to talk to people in class, and that's sort of how you meet friends. And my floor was just the people that I lived with my first year, and they were all super great and awesome people.
Is it easy to make friends as an out-of-state student? I would say definitely. I think maybe even more so than an in-state student. And I say that because I feel like as an out-of-state student, you're going to attract other out-of-state students who are probably also feeling a little bit overwhelmed and not familiar with their environment. For me, some of my closest friends, I'm really still close with my friends from my dorm and from my class in my first year, like Rachel. So yeah, I don't think it's hard at all.
Most of the friends that I made in college came either from classes I was taking, clubs I was a member of, or friends of friends that I had already made. And when I came to Cal, I was definitely very concerned about how I would actually be able to meet new people and make friends. But I decided to join organizations that I knew I could be interested in and where I could meet people that I found interesting. Back in high school, I was a very active member of my debate team, and so the first organization I joined at Cal was the Debate Society of Berkeley. And to this day, a lot of my closest friends are actually from that organization.
Were you able to make new friends in college? How? No,
Yeah.
I wasn't. I hate this guy.
Wow, that hurt.
Sorry, it's true.
Do you still keep in contact with your friends from your home state?
There's actually only about a handful of people that I still keep in touch with from back home. But I have noticed that a lot of my friends at Berkeley are actually friends from the Midwest. I have quite a few friends that are from Ohio as well as other states in the Midwest, and even though I didn't know them before I came to Cal, I found it interesting how a lot of my friends were from actually pretty similar backgrounds even after I went away to college.
Yes and no. I think some of the people that I wasn't super close with, I kind of fell out of touch with. My closer group of friends from home, I definitely kept in touch with them. I don't go back to Maryland too often, so I don't really see them that often, but whenever I am there, I can always reach out to them, and they're always welcome to see me.
How many people do you keep in contact with?
I say like very few. It's weird. I didn't really keep in touch with too many of my high school friends, unfortunately. There's like a
Number
couple,
on it.
like two.
Two.
Like
Okay.
two.
You're bound to lose some of your friends from high school just because everyone's values change and the direction that your lives are taking is also changing. So I think it's really natural, but I don't think that distance is really the reason why you lose those friends, hopefully. So for me, I'm still friends with a lot of people in college, and I've noticed that we share really similar values in life and still have similar opinions on things, and so that's why we're able to stay friends. So as long as you're like proactive about reaching out to your friends from your hometown, I think it's easy to keep those really meaningful connections.
What do you do for holidays like Thanksgiving and spring break?
For summer break and winter break, it's like a month or 3 months, so it makes sense for me to come all the way back to Belgium. Before I had moved here, I would go back to Maryland. Thanksgiving and spring break, since they're kind of shorter, just like a week, maybe a week and a half, doesn't really make sense for me to fly all the way out here. So I usually either stay in Berkeley because there's a good amount of people there, or I just go wherever some of my friends are going. So I had plans to go with my roommate to Korea for spring break, but that ended up falling through.
So I, again, like I said, really missed home. So I love to come home during those breaks, but it can get really expensive, especially if you live like coast to coast or something. So for me, it's really important that if you are going home to always book your tickets in advance, like well in advance, and to like really plan out your trip and know what days you're coming and going, and be flexible with that so you can, you know, be as practical as possible.
I never actually came home for Thanksgiving during my time at Cal, and I always ended up staying behind with some friends that were also staying behind. We kind of tried to make it a little bit fun. Occasionally we went on small trips. I went to Yosemite one year. Other times we just had a Thanksgiving meal together. But overall, I think I was able to make the best of it, even if I wasn't actually able to go home. For longer breaks, I was definitely able to either go home or go on a trip with some friends. But overall, I don't feel like I missed out on being able to go home, because even the people that did live near the campus didn't seem to go home like all that often. Maybe occasional weekends, but didn't go home like every weekend or anything like that.
Do you often feel homesick?
I definitely missed home, but I think it was like I missed the people, not as much as missing my home per se. So for me, I just kind of, you know, maintained regular like FaceTime conversations with the people that I cared about and my family and stuff.
Do you ever feel homesick? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's perfectly normal for anyone to feel homesick. Kind of unavoidable if you think about it, because I mean, you're leaving this place that you've been in for almost 18 years in terms of being under your parents' roof. So yeah, I definitely feel homesick sometimes, but it's not a big deal. You can always just call your parents up, schedule FaceTimes, video calls, that kind of thing, and it usually alleviates that.
If anything, I feel like I became more homesick when I actually came back to Ohio, in that I missed the people and the campus at Berkeley more than I missed home when I was away from home.
Is there anything you regret by going to a college out of state?
Honestly, no. I think Berkeley was a great choice for me. It really fit what I wanted to do, and I think really helped me grow as a person. And I think it was, the choice for me. And I'm glad that I went out of state to go seek that experience.
Just the money stuff.
Oh yeah. The cost of out of state is.
But I don't regret like coming out.
Yeah, you also don't know what to compare it to, right? Because like I don't know what my experience would have been.
Yeah, that's fair.
Staying in school.
If anything, it was an extremely positive experience and allowed me to grow and become more independent. In fact, now that I've graduated from college, I'm moving to Philadelphia, another place where I've never been and never had any close connections. And I think the fact that I've already moved across the country where I didn't know anyone before was definitely making it easier to do it a second time.
I think for me, I don't think there was anything huge, but when I look back and I think, oh, what could I have done better? I feel like I definitely would have tried to be a little bit more proactive about my time. So for me, like I felt like I was really proactive my first few years in school, and then I kind of just like chilled out a little bit for periods of like my school, and you know, I didn't really like do much or like talk to a lot of people, and I feel like there's always a good opportunity to take advantage of, you know, the campus like activities, or you know, get a coffee with a friend or something like that. And I just feel like I personally would have wished that I took advantage of those things more.
And finally, any advice for students choosing a college out of state?
My advice would be, if you see a place that really seems like it speaks to you, go for it, because you can always figure out a way back home. People are always carpooling or whatever, but like college is once, you know?
I think you should be prepared to be independent, but it's definitely like it's a very valuable learning and growing experience, and I think everyone should consider doing things that put them out of their comfort zone and force them to adapt.
You need to be honest with yourself about the financial means. If going to out-of-state school means you have to take on a huge financial burden, I think you should be honest with yourself and think about if that's something that you really want to do, as well as kind of like what are the reasons you're going to that specific school. Are you going to that specific school just because you want to get away from your home, or because you really like one aspect of it? And the second thing that I wanted to like talk about for advice is to develop a really strong support system when you're there. If you're an out-of-state student and you feel like you're, you know, more prone to feeling homesick or to feeling overwhelmed, it's really important to have a strong group of friends that feel like family while you're at school if you can't go home very often. And I think that's really important with any student in particular, because there's just a lot of ups and downs in college and a lot of firsts that you're experiencing, you know, like first taste of being an adult. So really important to have a group of people that you're willing to kind of share burdens and share joys with, and it'll ultimately make your time, you know, feel really worthwhile and really memorable.
I would definitely advise students that are planning to go out of state not to be afraid of moving away from home and not be afraid of being far away and not knowing people, and just kind of persevere and go through it, because you'll know that at the end you'll be better for it and it'll be a positive experience. I do think that I gained a lot from going out of state that maybe I wouldn't have if I went and stayed somewhere closer to home. And in the end, I only have positive things to say about the experience.
Definitely think like beyond the 4 years, and if you want to live here, like it's a big investment, both in terms of like money and I don't want to say like sacrifice, but you do, you know, give up a lot, like moving to a different place. Like you want to make sure that like the reasons you're choosing that place are kind of like important to you. So like one of the big reasons I chose Berkeley was because like the physics department is like unreal around here. So
Sure.
to see
Yeah.